Hi guys!
Hi,
Hello!
everyone.
Hello and welcome back to Brokenness Meets Grace. We're so happy that you joined us again for our second episode. And Kuda, in your experience, you mentioned your experience with brokenness. What would you say you have taken away positively from the three experiences in your life? You know.
Yeah, thank you. I think what I've taken from or what I've learned from all those experiences is certain things in life you won't change it.
Yeah.
And because it's happening in your life, maybe it's shaping you to another destination that you need to go, or a direction in your life that you need to, or a certain path that needs to take you through your life.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Then you ask yourself, if these things happening and you don't like it, and it makes you broken inside. And then you ask yourself, if it's happening to me and I don't want it, then you also don't want it for another person.
Yeah.
Because if it makes you feel that, then
Exactly.
definitely the other person, it makes them feel better as well.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
what you can do is, I think, would be to strive to be better.
Yeah.
Because you know, if you are broken, you've been shown what's wrong and what is the correct way of doing things. Unlike someone who doesn't know what is wrong, they won't know what to fix. So
Very true. Very, very true. The more we strive to be better, I think as a society we'll get to a better place. Like you said, it doesn't help to pretend you're not okay. I mean, it doesn't help to pretend you're okay when you're not, because you only end up scarring those around you. You know. And for you, Karawa, in terms of your brokenness, where did you find the grace? Where's the positivity?
I think I definitely agree with Kuda. I think it's really just harnessed more compassion and empathy. I like to make jokes and say I'm a mental health empath. I can recognize it. I can see the pain that I went through somebody else. I can almost see when somebody is self-conscious. I can almost feel when somebody feels like they just want to hide in a hole because they want to be invisible, because I lived that life for so long. I can feel when somebody experiences moments of feeling worthless based on somebody saying something, whether that thing was said directly to cause pain or inflict pain or not. But I can just pick up those telltale signs of somebody who is riddled with that kind of brokenness that I experienced. I'm very sensitive to it, and I'm even more conscious that I don't want to make people feel the way that I felt. So I fully agree with what you're saying, that in a sense our brokenness kind of makes us menders of it for other people. Because you know what that pain feels like. You don't want somebody else to feel that way. And if you can prevent it, or if you can, mend somebody as far as possible, then you'll go out of your way to do it. And I think that's why brokenness is also so unique to different people, because everybody goes through different types of brokenness. And it's like we stand as ambassadors in a way of helping people go through a difficult period that you didn't get help with, or even sometimes you just didn't see them as helpful in that moment, because you were just so consumed in what you were going through. So I think for me, definitely my grace card, if I can call it that, is compassion. I'm a lot more compassionate now that I'm aware of what I went through. And I would never want anybody to live the life that I lived, mentally anyway. It was horrible.
That's amazing. And it brings us to a really important topic, a really important part of our discussion today. And that is, why does God use broken people? I think for most people, when they're in their space of brokenness, they feel useless. They feel invaluable, or rather they feel like they have no value. They feel that they'll amount to nothing. And that's the sort of mental narrative that most people go through when they're dealing with their brokenness, or when they think about the brokenness that they experience. And when we come and we say grace, and we come and we talk about God uses your pain for something good. We come and we talk about your brokenness has been molded into something, a beautiful picture, and it just seems very unrealistic, right? It seems like cliche, especially to somebody who is experiencing one form of brokenness or another, how can they be any good coming from this, right? And then from a Christianity point of view, we associate God with, you know, the one that uses all of us and takes our stories and turns them into whatever testimonies that he does. And you know, from the Christian faith, we can identify a lot of people that were used in the Bible, for example, who should have not qualified for whatever they were used for.
Yeah.
You know, we think about someone like Moses, you know, and how Moses was basically a murderer, and he wrote the first 5 books of the Bible, you know, and he was one of God's closest friends according to the Bible. You know, we think about people like David, you know, who dealt with his own brokenness, you know, and he's considered a friend of God.
Yeah.
We think about, there's so many examples in the Bible where God used broken people who you would not expect to do phenomenal and amazing things, right? And I think the question that a lot of people would have is, why would a perfect God choose to use imperfect people to show himself as God? Like, why would a perfect God choose to use me, you know, and my broken story, you know, to show himself as God, or to glorify himself, or to make my brokenness look beautiful? Why? You know, and what would your answer be to that? Why does God use broken people?
I think with trying to find out an answer for anything, you kind of need to read it or understand it in context, you know. And that's just the complexity of the Christian faith, that it's not just face value, you know. There's so much meat to it. There's just so much you need to unpack. You can't just read a verse and think that sums up what it means, you know. There's more to it than that. And for me, that's just also where what the question that you're asking comes from as well, that a lot of people ask, you know, if there is a God, why do good things happen to bad people? Or why do bad things happen at all? You know, if he is such a good and righteous God, surely he can stop bad things from happening, you know. But I think we need to step back, or rather go back and fully understand, when did brokenness even come into the picture to begin with? You know, because if he's a perfect God, there was no room or cracks for him to be broken at all. You know, and his creation process did not factor brokenness. That was not the result of creating man, Adam and Eve, of creating the world. You know, it was meant, a perfect God created a perfect world, you know, with the intention and with the idea of everything being good, you know, and easy, you know. And brokenness came into the play because of disobedience, because of ignorance, because of, you know, I think even by virtue, the fact that we are created, we would never be perfect in a sense, because we are not the creator. God is the only one who is perfect. So it gave a lag really for disobedience to come into the play. And that disobedience and that rebellion brought about was a result of brokenness introduced into a perfect world. You know, so I think definitely where the Christian faith lies, we need to take that consideration, or that factor into play when we ask this type of question, because it's easy to regard a Christian God as a God who doesn't care, who doesn't empathize, you know, with the sufferings of the world, and you know, babies dying, you know, horrific things that happen. But that was never the intention of creation when he was concerned. It still isn't. And that's why he uses whatever happened, he didn't allow, right? But he still can find goodness in it. In a broken culture, in a broken world, he can still use people for good, because that is always the end game with God. Good. You know, it's never to break, but it's always to restore, to fix, to make it better than what it looked like. So, to answer your question, why does God use broken people? There's nobody else to use. We're all broken, you know. And once we realize that, like Kuda said, I think it comes from a place of acceptance as well, because you get on the other end, you get people who embrace their brokenness and are, you know, just so bitter and angry, but you get people who think they're not broken at the same time, you know, and walk around in this disillusionment of them being perfect and righteous, when in actual fact, we are all a little bit broken, you know, and we're all just trying to make it work the best way possible. But we need to come into this communion with the perfect God to make it possible, because outside of that, it is impossible. It doesn't matter how much you try. So that is my answer to that question.
And it's a good answer. You know, I like the fact that you mentioned where it broke to begin with. because as Christians, that's what we believe. We believe that that's where it broke because that's what we're told. And of course, with the breakage of that, all we'll ever be is imperfect.
Yeah.
And our experience as an imperfect people is that we don't have perfection to give, no matter how hard we try to make it or create it or seem like we're perfect to people. We don't have perfection within us. But he still finds a way to use that somehow, And Kuda, what do you think? Why do you think a perfect God still uses broken people?
There's a number of factors why he does that. I'm just going to mention a few. I think number one being redeeming people. And with that, me saying that doesn't mean what you said it's 100%. I'm just adding to even what you said it's 100%. I'm just adding to what you
definitely.
He tries to redeem people, and by so doing, it's if someone is broken, and then if he is being redeemed, he is the best person who knows the road, the bad road, and stuff like that. If someone doesn't go through the brokenness, they won't be able to teach it better or to tell other people about. So in a way, when they are being used, they are being redeemed, and they feel good about themselves, and they can touch a lot of people from there. And then he needs to. The second point would be to restore hope as well. If you see someone who's been, like you said, Moses being a murderer and stuff like that. If you see someone like that being turned around and becoming a good person, then you know that no sin is big enough for God. So anything can be restored, anything can be given back to every individual. And then the third thing is to inspire change or to encourage change in people as well. Because if you use someone who thinks probably they are perfect, they won't be humble enough to listen to God and to do and walk His ways 100%. So if you are broken, which means you are blessed. Because you can touch many lives.
Beautiful. That is. So I think that's possibly the best description I've heard of a broken person. Because like you're saying, in your brokenness, you have the opportunity to be so much more, if you just hand your brokenness over to God. And I'm reading a book at the moment. It's for those of you who know me, I hate reading, but I'm reading a book at the moment. And the author says something so beautiful, very similar to what you said. She says, think of your life as a pot, a clay pot with cracks in it, right? So it's a broken, or rather not without cracks. So let's say you were perfect, which means this pot doesn't have cracks, right? It's a perfectly closed pot. If you put light, like a candle, in that pot, and you cover it, are you going to see that light? No, you won't. The pot is perfectly closed, the top is closed, there's no light, right?
There's no sin itself.
Exactly, right? It's going to die out. That's even a better way to look at it, right? But if you use a pot with cracks in it, put light in it, cover it, what do you see? You see the light through the cracks, right? And the light doesn't die out because there's air, there's oxygen, so the light keeps burning brightly, right? And that's how our lives look, or that's how they should look when we surrender them to God. Cracked pots, right? When His light touches that pot, it illuminates brightly for others to see. It doesn't illuminate through perfection, it illuminates through the cracks. Through the cracks, you are able to see, God's glory. Like you said, redemption, you can't be redeemed from doing nothing wrong. You can't be redeemed from no brokenness.
You're perfect.
And you're so right, because if a broken world didn't exist, we wouldn't need a perfect God to restore us back to Him. So we should actually be a society of people that embrace their brokenness and surrender it to Him. Surrender it to Him and say, I am a hot mess. I am broken in so many places. I have made so many mistakes. I have really screwed up so many times. But please take me in my broken state and help me. And then we'll be able to start seeing the glory of God shine through our lives. So, go ahead.
It's a saying that goes, the brightest stars is because of the darkness.
Yes.
So you won't see the stars if
Yeah.
there's no darkness.
Exactly.
So there must be darkness for
It
stars.
has to be.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think it's because God is just God, right? He's amazing like that. It's a twofold blessing because, like you're saying, it brings the person who's broken hope because you are useful, but you're also bringing light to somebody else in the dark space.
Exactly.
You know, so it's like a double-folded.
Yeah, it's like light going out and light coming in,
Okay.
right? At the same time. That's so powerful.
Sure.
And I know to, another person listening to this who is going through hell, this may sound like it's almost an insult to injury. It may sound like we are trivializing, your experience or what you've been through, some of the most painful things that you've been through, and we're making it seem childish, like it's this simple, insignificant thing. You're shedding light, you're God's light. We understand, that you must be going through a lot of difficulty and a lot of pain, and we're not in any way trying to undermine anybody's pain or anyone's brokenness. We're just trying to raise the point that nothing, like you said, is impossible for God. Like nothing is too big. No mistake is too big. No pain is too much for Him to do something. And that's what we're coming to learn as individuals daily. Struggling with brokenness every single day in our own personal capacity, and praying and hoping that we can still be useful.
And nothing is a waste for God.
Yeah.
Like we may think that our experiences are so trivial, like Harmony said, but you don't even understand the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And we never focus on that. We are always so caught up and consumed in the right now and the moment, but it plays such a big part for a bigger picture, So however menial you may think your brokenness is, it's not to God because He can use it in remarkable ways.
I think we had a wonderful show. Everything went well. And I hope probably we changed someone's life out there. Hopefully we did.
Hopefully we didn't make anyone mad.
Thank you very much for allowing us in your time slot. We know we have got a busy schedule. Please feel free to like, share, and comment on this podcast. Share your stories. If you've got things that you want to share, then we will respond to you guys. And the email address to share these to is brokennessmeetsgrace@gmail.com.
Thanks for joining us, guys. Please join us next week as we tackle the first of our brokenness topic, and that is addiction. Okay.
Bye, guys.
See you soon.
It may be broken, but it's in the hands of the potter.